If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. How many of you have ever heard that before? Well, I can tell you this. If you grew up probably in the southeast region of the United States, and or if you are what we call African American or black, 9 times out of 10, you have heard that before. Even if you didn't grow up in the Southeast, if you have some family, some folks who are from the South in general, but mainly the Southeast as I see it, based on what I know, let me put it that way, then you 9 times out of 10, most likely you have heard, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. The key term there is stand. Standards. You got to have them. And we all do have them. No matter what they look like, we all have some standards. And you can always tell who aligns to you and who most likely you can align with or align to based on their standards in comparison to yours. And it is through our standards, by our standards, that we choose to associate ourselves with certain people versus disassociating ourselves from those people, rejecting those people. Likewise, regarding certain practices, certain procedures, certain systems even, ways of being, ways of thinking, ways of doing. It's all based on the standards and the alignment of those standards to our standards, because our standards reflect us. They shape us. Perhaps we shape them. So, for example, if you know you're not a weed smoker, and that's just not for you, you don't even have an interest in that, 9 times out of 10, you are not going to align yourself with weed smokers, not knowingly. Especially those who are just out there doing it. You know, you might know that, okay, these people do stuff behind the scenes, but they're not bringing it to the fore. They're not bringing it to the public. They're not trying to bring it in your presence. You know, you might deal with them to a certain degree, but those who are just out there, hey, they're just weed heads, and no matter where they go, they trying to smoke up. It could be in a church, in a synagogue, in an assembly of your Hebrew brothers and sisters. And they want to spark up right there. You ain't dealing with them type people because you know that's not who you are. Same thing with drinkers. You know, if you know you're not a drinker, even that quote unquote occasional casual drinker, you know, just a glass of wine here and there. If that's not you, you're probably not going to align with those individuals. Same thing with gossiping. Same with being promiscuous. Same with being a pornography watcher. Same with, watch this, even being a person that is prayerful, somebody who has a prayer life. If that's not what you're about, you're not going to kick it with those type people. And typically vice versa. Those who are about those other types of life won't kick it with you if what you do does not align with them. I'm saying this because our standards really do help to protect us if we're using them for those type reasons. In other words, if we're using our standards as a gauge to help us identify and to know whom to be around, what to be around, versus whom and what not to be around, when to be around them or those things versus not. If we're using our standards for those reasons, then our standards will indeed help to protect us. It's sometimes good to give people a test or to test yourself even in certain systems to see how the environment around you is, to see if those people will reflect your standards. And if the environment, if those people, if they don't reflect your standards, then you know that you probably just have to keep it moving, that you have to disassociate yourself from those things, those people, those systems. And you will then have to be mindful to keep them at bay from you when they try to draw close to you, because they don't align with your standards and you are indeed trying to protect yourself. And you have to put niceties aside. Now, you can be cordial when you say no, but you have to be firm about it, because once the snake is in the house, the snake is in the house. So if the snake proves itself to be a snake and you know that you're not drawn to snakes and you really don't desire them, then you have to make sure that the snake stays away from your crib, from your house, from your haven, your peace, from your place of recuperation and restoration. You have to make sure that you protect your sanctity, your sanity even. You have to be mindful of your standards. And you cannot relax on them. Because again, if you don't stand for something, you will fall, lose rank, lose position, crash, end up damaged, perhaps even ultimately destroyed for anything, because you did not stand for the something that you could have and most likely should have stood for. Do you get the point? And does that make sense to anybody other than me? I know it makes sense to you. Stand for what you're supposed to stand for, so you don't end up falling for some crap, just anything that's out there, all because you relaxed your morals, you relaxed your standards, you relaxed your way of being, your way of thinking, your way of speaking, your way of existing, your way of doing, in order to appease somebody else or something else. And that means sometimes you might have to walk away from some money, some jobs, because the standards don't fit you. You might have to walk away from some relationships because the standards don't fit you. And you know what good standards are versus not. So in the name of Yahushua, by Yahuwah's power, no weapon that's formed against us shall prosper. No weapon, not even the weapon of relaxed standards. And every tongue in Yahushua's name, and every tongue that rises against us in judgment, you better know that we shall condemn, because that's the standard that the Most High has established. And watch this. And we were made in his image, so we have to maintain his standards. May the Most High keep you. And may there be a barakah upon you and your household in Yahushua's name. And so it is.